At midnight tonight, $1 trillion appears in your bank account. Not 1 million. Not 1 billion. $1 trillion. There is only one rule. You must spend every single dollar before the next midnight. You cannot donate it. You cannot give it away. You cannot destroy it, deliberately lose it, or buy something from a friend at a ridiculous fake price. Every purchase must be real. There must be a willing seller, a legally binding agreement, and an irreversible payment before the 24 hours are over. Delivery can happen later, but once midnight arrives, the money must be gone. If even $1 remains, every purchase is canceled and you lose everything. The houses, the cars, the companies, even the sandwich you bought for lunch. So the question is simple. Can you spend $1 trillion in 24 hours? At first, this sounds easy. Spending money is not exactly known for being difficult. You begin at 12 o'clock a.m. with the most expensive house you can find. A massive mansion overlooking the ocean, complete with private beaches, swimming pools, underground garages, and enough bedrooms to forget where you slept. Price: $200 million? You sign the agreement and send the payment. Then you check your balance. $999.8 billion. You have spent more than most people could earn in several lifetimes. And your balance has barely moved. So you buy more. A penthouse in New York. A private estate in London. A palace in France. Luxury apartments in Tokyo, Dubai, Singapore, and Hong Kong. You tell your team to purchase every major property that can legally close today. By sunrise, you have spent $10 billion. You now own enough homes to sleep in a different bedroom every night for centuries. But you still have $990 billion remaining. The first 6 hours taught you something important. $1 trillion is not simply a large amount of money, it is a number that refuses to get smaller. At 6 a.m., you move on to vehicles. You call luxury dealerships, manufacturers, private collectors, airlines, and shipbrokers. You buy supercars, classic cars, armored vehicles, electric cars, racing cars, and every limited edition vehicle available for immediate purchase. You buy 10,000 high-end cars at an average cost of $500,000 each. That costs $5 billion. Then you buy private jets, helicopters, cargo aircraft, luxury yachts, commercial ships. You offer far above market value to anyone who can complete the paperwork today. By 9 a.m., your total spending reaches $25 billion. Your remaining balance is $975 billion. You own enough transportation to move a small country. But the clock is already becoming your enemy. The most expensive objects in the world are not sitting on shelves. A cruise ship can cost more than $1 billion, but it may take years to build. A private jet worth hundreds of millions may already belong to someone who does not want to sell. Even when a seller agrees, lawyers must verify ownership, banks must approve payments, and contracts must be signed. You can afford almost anything, but you cannot force it to become available. At 10 a.m., you decide to stop shopping like a billionaire. You start shopping like a government. You try to buy companies. This seems perfect. Some businesses are worth tens or even hundreds of billions of dollars. Buy a few giant corporations, and the trillion disappears. Except a company's market value is not a price printed on a box. Public companies are divided into millions of shares owned by different investors. Some will sell, others will not. And the moment you begin buying huge amounts, the price rises. Regulators notice. Trading may be paused. Boards become involved. Governments ask questions. Buying a company is not like buying a car. You cannot point at it and say, "I will take that one." So you target private companies and smaller public businesses instead. Hotels, factories, farms, warehouses, shopping centers, software companies, restaurant chains. You offer 2 or 3 times what many of them are worth. Owners are thrilled. Lawyers are not. Debts must be checked. Contracts must be reviewed. Taxes must be calculated. Some companies have investors who must approve the sale. Others have legal disputes that cannot be resolved in a few hours. By noon, you have spent $50 billion. Your remaining balance is $950 billion. Half the day is gone. You have purchased more assets than almost any private buyer in history, and you have only reduced your balance by 5%. Now, the trillion begins to feel less like a gift and more like a curse. At 12:30 p.m., your team proposes a simpler idea. Buy land. Lots of it. You begin making offers on private islands, forests, farms, office buildings, apartment towers, hotels, and industrial parks. For the easiest properties, you offer several times their estimated value in exchange for an immediate binding sale. Some owners accept. Most cannot complete the transaction quickly enough. A property may have mortgages, tenants, ownership disputes, or government restrictions. Entire regions cannot be bought because much of the land belongs to governments or communities that are not selling. So you create hundreds of teams, each working on separate purchases at the same time. By 2 p.m., your total spending reaches $100 billion. $900 billion remain. 10 hours left. You try to spend the money before it even has time to become property. You announce plans to build a new city, skyscrapers, housing for millions of people, hospitals, universities, rail systems and airports, power stations, parks, factories. The entire project could eventually cost hundreds of billions of dollars. But there is a problem. Construction companies will not accept the full cost of a 20-year project in one afternoon. They need plans, permits, insurance, land, suppliers, government approval. You can sign preliminary contracts and pay large deposits, but legitimate companies cannot simply take hundreds of billions with no realistic plan for completing the work. By 4 p.m., city development contracts, infrastructure deposits, and construction orders have pushed your total spending to $150 billion. $850 billion remain. 8 hours left. You now turn to commodities. Gold, silver, copper, oil, natural gas, wheat, coffee, anything traded in enormous quantities. And these markets already handle billions of dollars every day. For the first time, the money begins leaving your account quickly. You buy gold reserves, metals, fuel contracts, agricultural goods, and industrial materials. But your own purchases begin changing the market. Prices rise. Sellers delay because they expect even higher prices. Governments become concerned that one person is trying to control essential resources. Some exchanges impose limits. Banks flag the transactions. Then the practical problems begin. Buying oil means arranging tanks and storage facilities. Buying wheat means protecting it from insects, weather, and decay. Buying thousands of tons of gold means securing and transporting it. Every purchase creates another problem that also costs money. Normally that would be useful. Today, it is still not enough. By 6 p.m., your total spending reaches $250 billion. $750 billion remain. 6 hours left. You have already spent more in 18 hours than many countries spend in an entire year, and 3/4 of your money is still untouched. So you move into financial assets, government bonds, corporate bonds, loan portfolios, mortgages, real estate funds, patents, music catalogs, film rights, art collections. These assets can be transferred more quickly than cities or ships, especially when sellers already have the documentation prepared. Your team contacts banks, investment funds, governments, studios, record labels, and large asset managers. You make aggressive but legitimate offers. You purchase debt portfolios. You buy bonds from institutions willing to sell. You acquire the rights to thousands of songs and films. You purchase collections of paintings, rare vehicles, gemstones, and historical objects. For the first time all day, the balance begins falling rapidly. $700 billion, $650 billion, $600 billion. But your activity is now impossible to hide. Financial institutions around the world begin asking the same question. Who is this person, and where did the $1 trillion come from? Banks demand identity checks. Governments demand explanations. Transfers are delayed. Some sellers believe the offers must be fraudulent. Others worry that accepting the money could create legal problems. Your bank freezes several payments after noticing that the same person is buying skyscrapers, oil reserves, aircraft, and music catalogs within a few hours. You explain that you must spend $1 trillion before midnight. This does not make the bank more comfortable. At 8 p.m., your total spending reaches $400 billion. $600 billion remain. 4 hours left. Now you begin overpaying. Not with fake purchases. The rules still require real assets and genuine sellers. But you offer huge premiums to make people move faster. A building worth $1 billion. Offer $3 billion. A company worth $5 billion. Offer $12 billion. A bond portfolio worth $20 billion. Offer $30 billion. Some sellers accept immediately. Others assume there must be a hidden trap. Your team has prepared hundreds of emergency contracts throughout the day. Now you begin signing them. At 9 p.m., total spending reaches $550 billion. $450 billion remain. 3 hours left. You are now halfway through the money. You also own thousands of properties, businesses, vehicles, contracts, commodities, and financial assets. But you are running out of things that can legally be purchased today. At 10 p.m., you begin acquiring enormous pools of debt. Mortgages from banks, business loans, government bonds, infrastructure bonds, commercial real estate debt. These markets are among the few places where hundreds of billions of dollars already exist in organized, transferable packages. Your lawyers race through contracts prepared earlier in the day. Your banks approve the largest transactions they can process. Your spending accelerates again. $400 billion remaining. $300 billion. $250 billion. Then another problem appears. Some payments are irreversible, but the contracts include conditions that have not yet been satisfied. Those purchases do not count. Other transactions are blocked because they require regulatory approval. Several banks refuse to process more transfers until the next business day. At 11 p.m., you have $180 billion left. 1 hour. You activate every backup purchase your teams prepared during the day. A portfolio of office buildings, a group of hotels, aircraft fleets, mining rights, government bonds, film libraries, private companies, warehouses filled with metals and agricultural goods. One by one, the contracts are signed and the payments become irreversible. At 11:20 p.m., $100 billion remain. At 11:35 p.m., $60 billion remain. At 11:45 p.m., $32 billion remain. 15 minutes. You sign a $12 billion loan portfolio. $20 billion remain. A group of investors agrees to sell a collection of commercial properties for $9 billion. $11 billion remain. 7 minutes. A bank completes the sale of a bond portfolio worth $6 billion. $5 billion remain. 4 minutes. Your team has one final purchase ready. A collection of factories, warehouses, and land with a combined agreed price of $3 billion. You sign. The payment is processed. $2 billion remain. 2 minutes. $2 billion. Enough money to buy thousands of homes. Enough money to build hospitals, schools, and entire neighborhoods. But every legitimate purchase your team prepared has already been used. There are no completed contracts left. No verified sellers. No approved transfers. Someone suggests buying a $2 billion painting. The owner agrees. But the bank cannot verify the transaction before midnight. 1 minute. You offer to buy a private island. The seller is willing. The ownership documents are not ready. 30 seconds. You try to purchase more government bonds. The market is closed. 10 seconds. The balance remains unchanged. $2 billion. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Midnight. You failed. Every mansion disappears. Every car vanishes. The aircraft, ships, companies, factories, paintings, islands, bonds, and gold are gone. After spending $998 billion in a single day, you are left with exactly what you had at the beginning. Nothing. And that is the strange truth about $1 trillion. It is not just a bigger version of 1 billion. 1 trillion is 1,000 billions. If you spent $1 million every single day, it would take more than 2,700 years to spend it all. You can imagine buying houses, companies, islands, planes, and entire cities. But money does not instantly transform into ownership. Every major purchase needs a seller, a contract, a bank, lawyers, regulators on storage and transportation, and above all, time. With $1 trillion, your biggest problem would not be deciding what you wanted. It would be finding enough of the world that was available, legal, verified, and ready to sell. So, could you spend $1 trillion in 24 hours? Probably not. But you could come terrifyingly close.